Welcome back to Wild Speculations.
Hey,
I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
This week, we talk about episode 26.
Found and Lost.
Not Between Two Hills.
See what you did there. Quite an episode.
Yeah. Normally we like to start with either what we got right, what we got wrong, or we take the episode character by character and talk about what we think that the impact of the information revealed is going to have on the story.
Correct.
I think this week it's a bit moot to do it that way.
I agree.
Because there's really only one thing that happened in this episode.
Well,
one thing that matters anyway.
There's an elephant in the room.
Yeah.
I think we should just go through the episode and talk about things as they happen.
Okay.
First, they wake up and find that three of their members are missing. And after a spectacularly failing search for them, they come across this week's guest star, the very, in my opinion, very talented Ashley Birch, playing Keg, the Dwarven Fighter.
Dual-wielding fighter.
Dual-wielding, with the 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah.
This is her fourth time on Critical Role, her first time in an actual campaign.
In the show, as they put it.
Yeah, she's been in several one-shots, but... so after a very intense greeting...
Yeah, I was expecting almost Marvel level combat there for a minute.
Yeah, I was too. They decide to make camp. One thing I do love is she demands some kind of payment to show that they're serious, and Molly gives her 20 gold, asks for a cigarette, and then turns around and charges her the 20 gold to hire them.
Too, why don't you hire us? 20 gold. But you just gave me 20 gold. That's how I know you can afford it. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which is how buying Congress people works, by the way. Just an aside.
Okay. True and unexpected. Very slow-moving beginning.
Yeah.
They meet. They find out she's from Shady Creek Run.
Yep.
Which, by the way, that is something you got right.
Yep.
You thought that it was going to lead them there.
Yep.
And it did. Find out that she knows about the place because she grew up there. Find out that their friends have probably been taken by the Iron Shepherds, who are the worst of the worst in a town that's full of the worst.
From her perspective, yes.
From her perspective.
We have yet to meet anyone else.
Well, given the fact that we meet them at the end of the episode, I'm inclined to agree with her to this point.
Yeah.
They are definitely several steps worse than she is.
Yeah.
Of all the citizens, they are the bottom that we've met.
Yeah.
So they go.
They have a day of travel together.
Yep.
And they fight some Ankeg.
Yep.
And we get some of the first foreshadowing of the things to come. Not in the fight screams out, "Oh no, they've killed Molly!"
Yeah.
When Molly teleports.
Yeah.
And then we got...
Okay, well, let's rewind a second.
Okay.
When they're looking for them, the thing that may or may not have doomed Molly from the start, his first words are, "Jester, Ford, the Traveler is bullshit." His first words of the episode.
And he did die on the road.
I'm just saying.
Hey. If you're looking for things to believe and...
Hey, this show's called Wild Speculations for a reason.
Well, I mean, just...
If we're going to say...
religions in general tend to...
be bullshit.
Yeah. So a similar thing happened, actually, this weekend. The Waffle Crew and this Acquisitions Incorporated, the C team, had a crossover event.
Okay.
And... Sunday, when they had all 8 players, both GMs, at the table, an NPC started like throwing salt around, making salt circles, and hammering warding dolls on the walls of this temple, and it sort of upset the paladin of the group, and she's like, no, you can't do that. And then, while they were having that argument, a pit fiend tore the steeple off the church, and the paladin was like, see, it wasn't going to work. And the warlock and the other paladin both were like, well, we didn't get to that side of the church yet.
Yep. There you go. Yeah, but I mean, if we're going to say that Sam being glib and, being goofy is the first of the foreshadowing, we have to go back and say... him saying the Traveler is bullshit is the first of the foreshadowing.
Yeah, I guess so. Tempting fate. So yeah, they have the fight with the Ankegs.
Yes.
I kind of expected that fight to go a little differently.
In what way?
I kind of expected the Ankeg to attack them at the house.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a little surprised I was a little surprised for a second, but then I thought they probably are sensing the vibrations too, some kind of tremor sense, and more of them went towards the wood, so that's why they went after those.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's true. But they also didn't, come up in front of them,
right,
or anything. But yeah, Matt adding one more was a nice touch.
Yeah,
when they thought that we've already killed a third of the bad guys.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
End of that fight, I like. They lose 3 of the horses.
Yes.
And not does horrible on a medicine check.
Which reminds me, actually, going back to the very beginning when they decide to chase everybody.
Okay.
They decide to ditch the wagon and one of the horses.
Yes, they do.
So there's a lot of cutting off dead weight and shedding excess this episode. And you're right. It does start. I forgot to put that in my notes, but yes.
Yeah. But fails the medicine check, thinks that Bo's horse is dead, and immediately begins to cut out the tongue to eat it. Much to the dismay of Keg.
Yes, and actually, that whole sequence in our game last night, where I was reminded of that whole thing when you guys were debating whether or not to purchase mounts.
Mm.
And one of the other players is like, you don't understand, because one of them was naming the horse and getting attached to the horse, and she's like, no, the horses are going to die.
Horses are the first. Well, okay, so there's 4 players.
Yes.
There's myself, another person who's the person who made the comment about the horses dying, who is an experienced player.
Yep.
And then 2 new players, where this is their first campaign.
Yeah.
And she said that to one of the new players. Yeah.
I think she felt confident because my daughter played with us over the summer, and she had a pony, and the pony made it through her arc. But
mostly because we were in positions to stable it all the time.
Yeah. But anyway, but Not asks Keg, do you have any healing abilities?
Yes. I noticed you fought with like your hands and some weapons. Does that mean you're not a healer?
Yeah. Do you have any potions? Which is I think is the best segue into the next segment of their journey. That night when they make camp and they see the campfire. Now I was thinking the same thing Liam was.
Okay.
And Caleb by extension, which was that was a hag. As Matt's describing what's happening, I'm like, oh, that's a hag, and that's basically what Liam related to everybody in his conclusion.
Right.
But he does display, again, Caleb's fatal flaw if he has one, which is his selfishness.
Yeah.
Because he's like, that doesn't concern us, it's none of our business, but we did kind of care and help that other kid.
Yeah. The selfishness and really the pride. I think when he'll make a conclusion and that's it.
Yeah.
No room for, discussion.
Yeah.
I've come to my conclusion. That's final. I think those are his two big flaws. And I'm saying this as someone who Caleb is my favorite character in this campaign.
Yeah, he's my second favorite. Well, yeah, it's very close. Second.
And when he was talking about them, once he mentioned the nose in combination, I thought the furball, which is what they were.
Yes, once they got closer and he described them again, I was like, oh, well, that's not a hag.
No, I'm talking about that initial when Frumpkin was looking in and he was relaying and he started talking about the stories his mother told him. I was like, wait, it's a furbolg though.
Huh. Because I was on the same page as him. I thought it was a night hag.
No, I don't know. I just figured it was a furbolg.
Which I think Matt was describing the furbolg that way to elicit that response.
Well, yeah. No, I 100% agree.
And that's a trick that DMs who have DM players will use.
Yeah.
They'll tweak the order in which that they describe this monster so that the player begins building that picture and they're going through the catalog of the monster manual in their brain.
Yeah. Trying
to think what is this thing. And Liam and I fell into Matt's trap.
Yeah.
But we find out who the guest star is going to be this week in that scene.
Oh, really? You think that's going to be...
Mila.
Okay.
The furbolg who went after them.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even put that together in my brain. It's been a rough week.
I say that with like 98% certainty.
Okay.
Because that was the first thing, like, when I was watching it live, I was like, oh yeah, okay. Because I think, I don't know what Matt's plan originally was, if he was going to have both of them, if they were just going to meet up and have already sort of come together chasing them, or if he was going to have a separate encounter, or if he used this to set up for her introduction.
Right.
And I think Matt was hoping that they would get to Shady Creek Run without engaging them.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
He was prepared if they did, but
right.
I think he was hoping that they wouldn't.
No, I can see that because
he knew how difficult
they're going to have some issues going into Shady Creek Run.
Yeah, and They encountered them at 7, and it was 5 of them, 7 of them, versus 6 on 7.
Yeah.
So, and well, do we want to discuss the level of blame for what happened in that fight, or do we want to? Because I've got some other.
Okay, let's go with the other stuff.
Okay. So we saw again. I mentioned Caleb's reluctance, but he also later, in a separate conversation with Keg, says we're not really altruistic.
Yeah.
So he reiterates again both his and the group's selfish motivations.
Right.
And then we have Caleb on his own on watch.
Yes, in his monologue.
Yes. And I think Liam, more than any other player at the table, is comfortable in that space.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why, like, Liam has been one of my favorite players at the table, because he finds a way better than anyone else to give that internal monologue. Yeah. When he's playing. And I think for a watching audience, that's important, I think.
Yeah.
That adds texture to the show. At the table, it probably annoys the other people, especially when he goes on a long time. But he tends to be pretty good and keeps it to 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Most of the time. But in that monologue, again, Caleb's thinking about leaving.
Yeah.
And it seems to be every time that he's alone, that's what it comes down to. Because when he was in the basement with the skull, that's pretty much what he was talking about. And this time around, he's talking about how now he's talking himself into leaving.
Yeah.
Because he's like, that one, indicating Molly.
Yeah.
He's a walking rainbow. He's a circus performer. What can he do for you?
Right.
And, Bo, she swindled you. I mean, it was basically
and you've told her everything.
Yeah. She swindled you out of your secrets.
Yeah.
And you got nothing for it. It's basically the gist of his railing against her.
Yeah.
And not the one that he has had the least amount of doubt about.
He expresses a major doubt.
Yeah. And I think that's because of Keg. Because after the fight with the Ankeg, before that rest, she's like, why are you with her? And Bo's like, she came with him. They were a package deal. And she's like, why are you with her?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why he put that in there with not.
Yeah.
And then with the 3 that are missing, he begins doubting the reason for going after them. Because he's like, the 3 that are not here, what do they mean to you?
Yeah.
One of them is weird. One of them tried to kill you. And the other one is kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Which I saw someone did a cut of the dancing scene between Caleb and Jester. And the cut made me think, holy crap, that could be a ship.
Yeah. Caleb falling for Jester.
Yeah. But yeah. So I was like, that little bit reminded me of that clip that I had seen. Mm-hmm. And I was like, huh, maybe there's something there.
Maybe.
But let's see. Yeah, and those are the big a lot of the big things that, for me, set up Caleb's mindset going into that fight.
Yeah.
And the planning stage, which happens basically right after that.
And I think that stuff distracted him.
Yeah. Which is why I like. So we like to joke. We like to talk about what we got right.
Yeah.
I mentioned last week how I would love it if the guest stars came on and betrayed them or caused harm to them, because I think that makes for a much better story. And Sam, at the end of the night, does blame her.
In jest.
In jest. But I was like, do I want to take that as a win for me?
No.
But I don't think she's to blame really at all.
I don't think so either, especially when she sacrificed herself for the rest of the group at the end.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Or offered herself.
Yeah.
As sacrifice, yeah. As tribute, as they say in another movie franchise. But one of the things, so, like I say, this episode was full of foreshadowing for the death, whether they knew it or not.
Yeah. Foreshadowing and very slow build-up.
Yeah. And one of the things came out of Molly's own mouth.
Okay.
And that's when he's talking about how impressed he is with how everyone is stepping up.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean? He's like, well, Bo, you're actually being charming, and Caleb's stepping up, is making moral decisions.
Or at least in the direction.
Yes, yeah. But, like, to me, that was like that's the speech that the guy who's going to die in the second act makes before he dies.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
He's like, look, everyone's stepping up. This is great. We're coming together as a team. And we've talked back and forth about who's the heart. Is it Ford or is it Molly?
Mm-hmm.
And Molly basically stepped up as the heart in this episode. And in some ways, his death is going to be what galvanizes them, I think.
He's going to be the Agent Coulson of their Avengers.
Yes. I think so.
I can see that. Saddens me. He was my second favorite. I know he was your least, but...
Yes.
He was my second favorite after Caleb.
Now, they went through that planning process, and they came up with a few things. Some of which was kind of a joke, some of which was serious. And might have worked.
None of which was well thought out.
Yeah.
They were all good ideas, but they were never put well into a plan.
Correct. Because they didn't take... Every time they added something, they either wouldn't take away what that should have replaced.
Yeah. They either convoluted or took out too much.
Yeah.
And it almost felt like a half-assed brainstorming session rather than a planning session. To me.
And the only thing that went off exactly as planned is the only bit that they rehearsed.
Right. But the other thing about that, I say that, and even Ashley Birch says that. Because she says at one point, holy shit, with this plan, we're all going to die.
Yeah, and Caleb, I think, responds, well, with any plan, it's either going to work or we're going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she didn't say it. She said people are going to die.
No, yeah.
And people died.
Yeah. And that's because they kept to Molly's insistence that they open the cages.
Right away.
Yeah. If they had... Caleb, I think, iterated the clearest, best chance of success plan.
Yes.
Which was, okay, we knock the tree down, I cast slow, and we kick him in the ghoulies as hard as we can.
Yes.
And we focus fire them down, one by one. Okay, we'll start with the magic users.
Yes.
Bo says the druid, they can heal. Good call. If we can, we'll start with the druid.
and then they don't.
They kind of did. Where they didn't is not keeping to Molly's, we have to open the gates. And Caleb being selfish and attacking the magic user that was attacking him instead of the druid.
Yeah.
Because after that first round, after Bo and Molly went after the druid, she only had 26 hit points left.
Yeah.
Which, if not had engaged action, bonus action, attack, sneak attack on one of those.
Yeah.
And if she had done it the first round, she might have had advantage. So she could have crit.
Yeah.
Easily, that druid's dead.
Yeah. They very easily could have taken more people out.
Now, does that... I don't know if that would have... That may have caused the TPK. If they had done that. Because they may have been high on that victory and unwilling to disengage, whereas they were frustrated that it took that extra round to take the druid out.
Yeah.
But I like the biggest contributing factor to Molly's death was Molly.
Yes.
We agree on that.
I 100% agree on that.
And
I don't believe I agree with with how you blame what you said in blaming the other people when we were talking over dinner.
Yeah.
I do not believe their percentages are as high. I'm saying it's at least 75% Molly.
Mm-hmm.
With Caleb's selfishness, not
Yeah. But the other, and I jokingly said Matt deserves some of the blame too, for the way that the Blood Hunter works. You love the Blood Hunter class.
I do.
I'm not a huge fan of it.
I think it's a very interesting class. I like the risk-reward aspect of it, the extra resource management. I think it's got a unique flavor to where it's not just a reflavored cleric or a reflavored fighter. Or
I give you that. Yeah. But Molly did 19 points of damage to himself in service of his class.
Again, I don't try to play other people's characters. I don't think, but in my mind, how I see the Blood Hunter, it doesn't fit well with the high-risk, carpe diem, YOLO type attitude that Molly's character had. I think it was an interesting twist on the class, but I think, those amplifications on the blood maledicts are not every time thing, because you're taking damage every time you do that.
Yeah.
And in some of those, like the Curse of the Eyeless, which he used, I almost don't believe it's worth it to amplify that one unless... Well, I can see the amplification of it on someone like Lorenzo, but in a moment we'll go into why I think that, because of who I think Lorenzo actually is. Yeah,
well, and like I said to you, the risk-reward aspect of that is the damage coming in multiple D8s, D10s?
Right, but you also have to look at how easy has it been for him to hit.
Yeah.
Disadvantage may not make it worth it. He may be just adding damage to what he's doing.
Yeah.
Regardless, Molly's my second favorite character. I thought he was great. He was a carny. He was a Ren Fair guy. He was exactly what Taliesin tried to portray him as. I think he did an excellent job with Molly. He wasn't a bard that's not a bard. He wasn't... He was the carny figuring out life.
Yeah. Until he wasn't Molly anymore.
I'll agree with you on that, 100%.
When Knott pulls out the gun, Molly went away, and Percy came to the table.
Yep.
And he was Percy for the rest of the session.
Yeah. And you can't play Molly with Percy's attitude.
Yeah.
Just like you wouldn't be able to play Percy with Molly's attitude.
Right.
The role play and the mechanics don't mix.
Yeah. And they all observed, we don't have ranged options when they were planning. And
yeah.
Now they managed to get the terrain in such a way that wasn't a big issue because Bo has movement like crazy.
Right.
And Molly has the teleport. So the opening round, they were able to get on top of him real quick.
Yeah.
Which is also why it's really sad that Not didn't attack.
Yeah.
And she didn't attack at all.
Yeah.
The whole fight. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to get into before we get into Lorenzo.
I guess we could address, there's... I heard some... I saw Marisha's tweet right after the live show about, hey, don't yell at our guests. You can be mean to us if you want, because people were blaming Ashley, and I don't know why. I mean, it could be that she was giving herself disadvantage is the only thing I could think of. But, I mean, that made sense story-wise.
So, yes. And the only thing, she said she was freaked out.
Yeah.
But essentially, all she did was she said to Matt, I think Keg is frightened.
Yeah.
So he said, sure, she's frightened, which gives you disadvantage on everything so long as you can see what you're frightened of.
And this is a group, Ashley included, that are more concerned with the narrative than the mechanics.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Matt and Ashley are both writers, not just actors. They know how their characters would feel.
Yeah.
They know...
Well...
And Matt's given NPCs disadvantage for no reason other than narrative.
Yeah.
It's happened before.
And not every time she's drinking going ahead of everybody.
And she does that intentionally.
And she's tripped traps because
narrative,
of it. And no one's given Sam shit for it. But yeah. No,
that was up there right below the whole Bo-Caleb fight in annoying me. Like, that kind of stuff. Let them tell their story. Enjoy their story. We're fans for a reason.
Yeah. No, I don't think anything that she did was bad per se.
But, I mean, evidently it was bad enough that Marisha yelled at everybody because enough people were...
Well, yeah. And I don't... Yeah.
Being rude to act, And kudos to you, Marisha, for doing that. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, well, I think Matt knew. Matt knew that shit was going to come down on people.
Yeah, and
at the end of the episode,
when he's describing that it's part of the narrative, the dice happen.
Yeah. And he's like, don't yell at us for any mechanical things we got wrong. And I'm not gonna. Even though there was some things that were done wrong. But I decided to analyze this fight as the ball lay, as it were.
Yeah.
As the narrative, as they ruled at the table, that's the way I'm analyzing this. And more from the point of view of their own discussions leading up to it.
Yeah.
And if they had stuck to the plan, basically.
If they had stuck to the plan, if they had killed everybody, then tried to open the cages. Which Keg did say, they're not going to help you.
Yeah.
They're going to run. You shouldn't worry about that. You should worry about these guys that will kill us.
Yeah.
She put that out there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Arguably, she was not in a position to attack the druid, which was their primary target.
Right.
On the turn that she got her opening thing. And she's like, I'm freaked out. I'll have disadvantage. I'm frightened. She didn't run toward the source of her fear. She ran perpendicular.
Yep.
And attacked the person that she really hated.
Yep.
Which to me makes total sense. But I had more fun when she's like, I'm gonna run. And Sam's like, away? She's like, yeah, I'm running away. And he was like, what?
Yeah.
And everyone was just like, what? I was like, yes.
Yeah. But regardless of all of that, things happened.
Yeah.
It's their story. It's not our story. We just they've just invited us along for the ride.
Yeah. Now, before we get into the long discussion about the bad guys,
Okay.
I want to mention one thing that Matt did mechanically that I love.
Okay.
And that was the introduction of that greater healing potion that takes a minute to ingest,
Yes.
to apply.
The out of combat.
I was like, that's brilliant and beautiful, and I will probably be using it in our game.
Right on.
Just because, like, and part of me wonders if Matt would almost prefer a gritty healing system in their campaign
Yeah.
to ratchet up the tension, because it's worked wonders in our campaign.
Oh yeah, it has.
Uh,
Oh my gosh.
because even long rests aren't respite when you have gritty healing.
Yes.
Uh,
Trust me, I know.
Yeah. So I like the concept of that over time healing potion.
Yeah.
The out of combat healing thing to give them an option other than hit dice to heal.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you would put a gold value on that. Maybe step it down to the
Just step it one down.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I would do.
Alright, cool. But yeah, other than that, I think that's all my major notes on it on the episode.
All right. So the Iron Shepherds.
Because this was your insight, which was pretty good.
We've got a barbarian, a bard, a druid,
A rogue.
a rogue, and Lorenzo. Lorenzo's identified as a fighter type who then casts Cone of Cold. I know you said you thought Eldritch Knight.
Yeah, my first thought was Eldritch Knight.
My very first thought was Hexblade Warlock, because Cone of Cold is on their additional spell list.
Yeah. Well, the thing that works against my assumption is the fact that he's in studded leather.
Right.
And an Eldritch Knight could be in chainmail or plate.
Which, so could well, not plate, but medium armor on a Hexblade.
Yeah.
But, as I was doing my rewatch today, I started putting some things together.
Which I think his armor might be magical. But that's
And I thought, no. Okay, so we have Cone of Cold. We have a nasty looking glaive. Okay.
Yeah.
We've got the extra attack. He's a fight. The guy has the extra attack, which Pact of the Blade could do, or Eldritch Knight could do. He's a slaver. Children are going missing. The only thing that I'm assuming is that he can shapeshift, and he's taken a human form. Cone of Cold once a day. 2 attacks, known for glaives, known for being particularly fond of the deliciousness of children. Lorenzo is an Oni.
Yeah.
That's why he's like that. In my mind, from what I've seen roleplayed, from what I know of Oni, that elicits the response that he gave to Molly. That all of that stuff, it just builds up. My wild speculation is that he's an Oni. That's why he's such a badass villain that they have in their campaign now.
Yeah.
It's because they've got to work up to be able to fight an Oni.
Yeah, and I took that basically to mean, because the whole interaction between Keg and Lorenzo and leading up to that whole thing reminded me very much of Negan from Walking Dead.
Right.
And I know you don't watch it.
Never watched it, never read one of the comics.
Yeah. But yeah, and when he said, you guys have one hell of a villain, that's what I thought he was meaning. Is
Gotcha.
on the level of Negan that's going to sort of challenge them and be around
and kind of grow with them.
Not necessarily grow with them, because I think. Well, yeah, I don't. Unless he's setting Lorenzo up to be the force against which the gentleman is sending them there to fight against.
Possibly.
But it sounds like he is in service to a different crime lord, not he is the crime lord.
Yeah. Well, and it's something I was wondering. Are these the slavers that get the guys for the gentleman? Because I still think the gentleman's into,
Yeah.
Are these guys connected to the gentleman, and that's what causes the rift between the 9 and the gentleman? Finding out that Lorenzo works for him. Do we want to work for someone who's okay with this guy?
The only thing that... Well, a big thing against that is the fact that when they mention who they are going to Shady Creek to help, Matt says to Keg, the name is familiar, and they are in opposition to the family who runs...
Oh, yeah, I missed
guys.
that. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that she isn't a slaver and they want to get rid of the competition.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
I mean, that was the off-color joke I made on someone posted a thing about how many missing kids were found as part of a sexual trafficking sting in Minnesota, I think. And I was like, well, yeah, the Trump administration is taking out their competition because they just imported a bunch of kids from Mexico that they just flushed into the sex trafficking economy. But yeah, I mean, that's what I think might be going on in that town. I don't think the gentleman is one to balk at slavery.
No. But yeah, that's my theory on Lorenzo. I believe that I am right. Of course, I believe that I'm.
Yeah. Cone of Cold is 2nd or 3rd level spell. I don't remember
either.
And my book is down there.
Anyway, but I do know that Oni have it once a day.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to think, for the Eldritch Knight, he'd have to be 8th or 9th level, I think.
Yeah.
To be getting that. So, yeah, he's the big boss.
Yeah.
But to your point about the regeneration that the Oni get.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I forgot to mention that. He's not worried about the fire. In fact, he does a ton of other stuff, several rounds worth of stuff before he finally pats out the fire nonchalantly. Almost.
Yeah, well, and he gets annoyed when the bard comes up to cast Cure Wounds on him.
Yeah.
He waves them off.
Yeah. Because they have a regeneration, and unlike trolls, it doesn't matter if they get hit with acid or fire, they're still going to regenerate.
Yeah.
10 per round versus a d6 for being on fire. He's going to outpace that. He's never going to succumb to the damage of a fire.
Yeah.
So that's just another log on that Oni fire.
Yeah. The only thing, like, narratively that kind of bothered me about the end of the episode was, by all rights, Lorenzo should have killed one more.
Yeah.
He should have let his barbarian beat the shit out of Caleb.
Yeah. The big thing that, well, didn't really bother me, but the thing that I would have rather seen happy, Matt gives Taliesin a wonderful opportunity. Any last words?
Yeah.
He spits at him.
Which he actually spit.
Yeah.
Which I didn't notice until my rewatch. Like, it crossed I was like, oh! I wonder where
I wanted him to say, "See you in hell and infernal," and cast vicious mockery on him. That's what I would have for my...
Oh, yeah. That would have been good. Yeah. I could definitely have appreciated that. But I think he had given up on vicious mockery.
Yeah.
At that.
But why not try one more time?
That's true. That's very true. We have a few minutes left.
We do.
Now, we took the other regular cast members out of the rotation on our cast slideshow here. But do we want to spend a few minutes talking about them? Because there is some stuff to mention. Because Knott was going through Jester's notebook.
Yep.
And Matt finally had to say, you're going to have to wait for Laura. Because it's her backstory. But the way he described her journal is pretty much the same way that he described Garmilli's sketchbook when Vex took it from him.
Yep. Another point.
Yeah. So, so there's that to keep it going in our ongoing speculations. Do you think if they had actually won the fight, or if they had gone to their campsite, because they talked about attacking them when they camped, which probably would have had a better chance of success.
Yes,
because only one or two of them would have been up at the beginning.
At watch and
if that was the case, then Knott could have spent more time working on the cages.
Or sneak attacking the ones that are sleeping without armor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean...
now what's... So, yeah. If they had won, or if they had managed to find which cart...
They weren't in that cart.
Well, do you think Matt knew which cart they were in?
I think he did. I don't think they were in that cart.
I think they were in the last one.
Okay. Maybe. I don't know.
Because now I'm going off memory here, but he described it as the only cage? Or one of two cages?
Right. Only cage, I believe. Yeah.
And that cart's small. It's only about the size for one cage. So I think they were on that last cart.
Okay.
Do you think they could have... What do you think would have happened had they gotten them out?
Matt would have had to run them.
Yeah.
And find another reason for them to leave. If that is true. See, and that's why I don't think they were in that thing.
See, well, yeah. Like I said, I think they were in that last wagon, and it would have been interesting.
And it would have made sense because they were the last ones caught.
Yeah.
Presumably.
Yeah. If my timetable is right, they hit the Furbolg village on their way south and hit the Mighty Nine on the way back north.
Yes.
Is what it's sounding like.
That's what my impression was.
Yeah. So I've been envisioning when the three come back that we have a session with them. I don't know if it'll be just them or if everyone else will just be quiet for the first hour and a half. And whether or not they will attempt their own jailbreak.
It's possible. See, I was thinking they would probably do that off camera and then just have tales to tell. I can see it going either way.
Well, it depends on how much Matt wants to use this guy as the big bad, as the villain, the juicy villain that he wants.
Right.
Because I think if you're going to use him for that, we have to see him breaking them.
Attempting to, yeah.
Which means that's going to make for a very dark episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it'll be interesting if that's how that goes. Now, like I said, I think we've already gotten the introduction for our next guest star, Neela.
Okay.
I think they meet her going to Shady Creek Run. Now, they have a problem because Lorenzo said, if I see you, I'm going to kill you.
Yes. Well, not in as many words, but yes.
Now, they have ways to get around that. Not and Caleb both can cast Disguise Self.
Correct.
And Molly's a human, or Molly. Bo's a human, so she can be made up easily.
Yes. Especially with Molly's disguise kit.
Yeah. Does not get his scimitar. Does she take it? Because this is only magic item.
I think so.
I think so too.
I mean, they may be taking the body and trying to resurrect him.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's spend the last few minutes talking about that. Because, yes, that is a thing. It could possibly be done.
It'd be a lot easier if it was Yasha that went down. Because with Path of the Zealot, they don't need to use the material components.
Yeah. Which, I was thinking about that after the episode. And I almost think that should be the strategy they use. That they just wind Yasha up, send her into the enemy until she does go down, and then they can just revivify her. Like, don't even... Because really... Well, I guess it depends on at what point in the battle Yasha were to fall, and whether or not the action economy had already swung in their favor or not.
Yeah.
Because it's almost worth it to not even bother casting Cure Wounds on her in the midst of the battle and just wait and cast Revivify at the end.
Yeah.
Unless you need that. Unless you need her damage out, her actions going on. But it's something I kind of want to see that play out. I want to see that aspect of the Zealot be brought back. And I also kind of want to see, does Matt give her advantage on that check to bring her back because of the Zealot's ability to just come back?
I think so. I mean, I think I would.
Okay.
So, but I mean, the first couple of times it's not that hard.
Yeah.
To make the check.
Yeah.
It's once you start becoming Vax'Lodon where you die every arc that it gets
when your only
rough.
option is a Revenant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I've seen a couple people online talking about Molly coming back as a Revenant.
Have you?
Yeah.
See, I don't do much with the online stuff. I follow the actors and see their responses to things.
Yeah. But yeah, there's some talk that Molly could come back as a Revenant, and I don't want him to, because I don't think Molly has a mission that qualifies him.
I don't think he'll come back as a Revenant. If he's gonna come back outside of regular resurrection spells, I think it's gonna have something to do with his backstory,
and that's the other thing that people are talking about. He's already been buried once. He's already died once, but I don't think that was a real death. I think that was part of the ritual, the Blood Hunter.
I do too.
And them not understanding what they were doing. I think it's a new thing that they've found.
Yeah. I can see that.
The Blood Cleric is in the Tal'Dorei guidebook, but the Blood Hunter isn't.
Correct.
So,
in fact, there's a sidebar that says go to the D&D.
Yeah, if you want to use it. But I think that person was a Blood Cleric, the Tabaxi.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah. And
Great.
I think she was involved in this ritual to make Taliesin a blood hunter,
right,
as an experiment, and
didn't
understand what to
Does
expect.
Molly come back as, or does Taliesin come back as Kree, or one of the others that were involved with that ceremony?
No,
So, I mean, that would give him an excuse to bring in another blood hunter or a blood cleric.
Yeah.
Someone else who knew Nonagon.
I kind of want to see Taliesin bring in and play the upright paladin. I want to see him play the nice guy, the good guy.
Well, his first character before Percy was a Dragonborn Paladin. But when they decided to make it a campaign instead of a one-shot,
and
they already had a cleric and a Dragonborn.
Yeah.
So he's like, hey, I'm going to get rid of this character and bring in someone new so we're not overstepping on each other.
Yeah. And a paladin is a class that they have never had in the party.
This is true.
They've had guest stars who were paladins, but never...
Only one.
Two.
Who was the other one?
Carrick.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
I think he was a devotion paladin.
Yeah.
Who guest starred on the Waffle Crew at PAX Unplugged. So Pat Rothfuss is the thread that binds all three of these shows that I follow. And I've joked with them on Twitter about, how long until the Waffle Crew, the C Team, or Critical Role starts showing up in their universe. Although it's a different plane of existence, but that didn't stop Carrick from falling into Faerun.
Well, and it didn't stop, the different stuff on Stream of Many Eyes.
Yeah.
Like Talks Machina.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's the end of our show tonight. We'll see if he's an Oni. We'll see if they can rescue him.
What happens with Taliesin.
And if Neela is the guest star.
Right. Taliesin, Ashley, and Matt on Talks Machina right now. Head over there with us. See you guys.